President Trump reacting this morning to news several years of his tax returns have just been released to the public. The documents released are from 2015 to 2020 and include personal and business information. Now, the former president saying through a spokesperson in part, quote, "The Trump tax returns once again show how proudly successful I've been and how I've been able to use depreciation and various other tax deductions as an incentive for creating thousands of jobs and significant structures and enterprises," end quote. All right, so joining us now to discuss all of this is political strategist Rina Shah. Rina, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And we're pivoting a bit now with this breaking news. You know, roughly 6,000 documents released. Our team in D.C. poring over them right now. Rina, talk to us first. How significant is this release, and what are we going to learn from these documents?
Well, this is number one, extremely unprecedented. We have not had to see any committee within Congress do this to a former president or to really any sitting office holder that I can recall in recent years. So on this level, it's very bombastic. Of course, Republicans are arguing that these were confidential tax records that should have never seen the light of day, and that this is a ploy by Democrats to discredit the former president who has already announced his 2024 run. Now, there are privately Republicans saying this is a good thing. Why not get a snapshot of the guy who many think in the Republican Party does not deserve a second chance at this nomination? The third time, is not looking like a charm for him to many Republicans. But again, they're saying this privately. The united front that the GOP is showing right now, again, it just hammers that home, is that this is unnecessary. It's another political witch hunt, and it's meant to discredit what should have been known as a successful businessman.
Yeah, so Rina, you mentioned the fact, we know that the former president is again running for president in 2024. He already made that announcement. But what type of revelation, could come from this release that would impact his campaign, either, negatively or potentially positively?
Well, let's zoom in first and find out exactly what would be in there. A couple weeks ago, we learned, and actually it wasn't a couple of weeks ago, excuse me. I mean, it feels like every week here in Washington, it feels like a year. But it was just about 10 days ago, actually, that we learned that this committee was going to let us know. They started to give us a little bit of a drip drop of information. One big thing we learned that over 3 years, while sitting in the White House, President Trump paid about $1.1 million. Now, for a person that is purported to be extremely wealthy, billionaire status, that's a very small amount. And also, in his final year in office, he paid $0. He seems to have taken advantage of the tax system, very system that when he ran for the first time in 2016, he said, we've got to simplify our tax code. I want every American to be able to file on a postcard. So it's almost a bit hypocritical, if you ask me. We're seeing now, again, a president, and I assume as we pour through these documents, we'll learn of somebody, a rich American, the former president, that while he was a private citizen and even while he was in the White House, took advantage of the many loopholes that many wealthy Americans, the 1%, if you will, do take advantage of to retain their wealth and to continue to grow it.
So Rina, as you know, there has been a long court battle over the release of these documents. What do you make of the ultimate now timing of this release?
Well, the timing is certainly great for Democrats because it's still quite early and there are a lot of documents to pour over. This is not a simple thing that the committee has just unleashed. But again, going to what exactly the American public is going to learn from these documents, we're only going to see what is after 2015 of the Trump organization and of Trump himself. Anything before that, we're just not going to know. Also, other smaller entities, other smaller businesses that could have been created by the Trump organization, by President Trump himself, those were not requested by the committee. So money could have been hidden there, and we just won't know. This gives, again, a good snapshot of how Trump took advantage of the American tax code to benefit himself, his family, his businesses. But does it give the fullest, clear picture? I'm not quite sure. Again, we won't know until we read through everything. But one big thing that I have been concerned about from the outset of his candidacy is about foreign entanglements. Who exactly does the former president owe money to, whether it was in the past past. So anytime after 2015, or even in years prior, could we learn that through something else? Maybe somebody will come forward and show something that the committee didn't learn. These are all open-ended questions, but I think one thing for me here is really clear. This is about principle. Republicans are screaming about the confidentiality. This sets a bad precedent. Democrats are saying the IRS needs to be better funded. We need more people in the IRS for helping us show us these documents of elected officials. I think anybody running for elected office in our representative democracy, these United States, needs to be able to show to the public just who they are financially. We deserve to know who's representing us.
Well, Rina, I want to get in this last question for you. We only have about 30 seconds left, but obviously all of this happening ahead of next week's vote for House Speaker. Will this have an effect, do you think, on that vote? And if Kevin McCarthy is in fact elected, will it impact his ability to lead?
I don't think the release of Trump's tax returns does anything for McCarthy's speakership. From where I sit, and I made a career in the U.S. House of Representatives as a senior aide to 2 Republican members of Congress, I can tell you Kevin McCarthy has been looking towards a speakership now for probably 2 solid decades. Let's not forget he was former Speaker Ryan's right-hand man. And in that, Speaker Ryan was known as a policy guy, and McCarthy was known as a political animal. Right now, these are the toughest and worst weeks of his life because he's shown he's really not that great of a political animal. He's had to make a lot of trade-offs with other members that he probably likely would not deal with and probably would likely not like to owe any favors to. But the reality is this: he has a fantastic whipping operation, and how things are done on Capitol Hill, it's going to be peer pressure in the end, and I think he'll pull it off. But how can he govern as a speaker with such a rowdy caucus of people that at any minute are willing to go to the floor and ask for a vote that removes him from the speakership? It's really a tough moment, something we haven't really seen in the modern era, but I do think he'll pull it off and become speaker. The aftermath is going to be unbelievable, though. Wait and watch.
All right, we will wait and watch. Rina Shah, Republican and geopolitical strategist, thank you for your time. And coming up, I'll speak with a doctor on the ground